Sorry, couldn't find the button. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, to reiterate what Sean said, basically this is just how we will do another one and include, if we had done everybody we wanted, the thing would be 6 hours long. Nobody wants that. So what we're going to do, that Sean and I decided, is we've got basically 4 companies here: Cinemoves, Chapman Fisher, and GFM, that we're going to cover today. I think we've got reps from all of them here. We'll start with Cinemoves, and I don't know, Sean, if you want to unmute both Mike and Scotty. I don't know. It might be the thing to do, or Scotty and Mike unmute yourselves, however we do that.
Yeah, you guys can unmute yourselves.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and what we kind of decided is we'll spend about 20 minutes on each company, let them talk about stuff, innovations. I have some questions I'll ask you. And that's not a hard 20 minutes. If something gets into something we want to continue to talk about, we'll just go longer, and stay as long as you want. If you get bored, drop out. So I'll start with Cinemoves. I see John Slade's here too. And I, of course, as most of you have used Cinemoves equipment for 20 something years. Mike and Scotty and Sean and those guys are I'm very close to them, in my mind anyway. So Cinemoves guys, is there anything, I know Scotty is usually off in some far-flung part of the world, or it seems like he is, testing some piece of equipment that they've come up with, the Klaus cam or the something, And is there anything in development now that you can talk about that you're excited about, or something that you're about to come out with? I know there's some things you probably can't talk about.
Yeah, well, no, actually, we can talk about all of it. And to you guys' point about, not every other manufacturer being here, or some of the other vendors, I think this discussion, the way I'm looking at it, this is an industry as a whole, and this is all about the people and all about the relationships. The gear can be the best out there, but it all comes down to the person that's attached to it and the person that, is putting it together. So, I like to think, I've kept a really close relationship with the Pro Cams, the Monster Remotes, the Craniums, and all of us have a lot of the similar gear, but we also, probably more importantly, have relationships with. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about is not only available through Cinemoves. You can get it from other vendors. And we actually do a lot of business in, all of those companies I just mentioned have some of our products. But we have a lot of cool things, not only new things coming out, but as you know, Daryl, we continue to evolve everything that we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have, I think everybody's probably aware, we've come out with the Matrix.
And it creates probably.
Hang on.
Oh.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Continue, please.
So, we've got the Matrix, which we, brought out last year, and quite like happens a lot of the times. We come out with one product and then it creates some other opportunities. So one of those has been, we've teamed up with GFM, and we've taken their Primo dolly, pedestal dolly, which is traditionally not a popular dolly here in the States, but we coupled that with the GF jib and then the Matrix and Matrix mode. And I think we've put together a product that is going to have some interesting appeal in the future. In addition to that, we're talking with Fisher about, developing a nose piece for the 10 and 11, where we can put the Matrix and Matrix mode directly to that. The battery, we've really evolved our battery side of the business. And, that was something that came along after we were developing, the motivators for the cranes and things like that. A high-powered battery became a lot more important. Our electric car program, we've just introduced that, and these are things that we've been working on during the shutdown as well. So we got a lot going on.
Yeah, and that kind of, and you kind of almost answered it, I guess, is how is innovation happening? I mean, do get an idea in your head yourself, or do you take suggestions? Of course, I'm sure you do.
That's 150% your fault, Daryl.
Now you sound like Mike.
No, it's you guys out. It's you guys out in the field, and a perfect example of where our ideas come from is from the field. Like, the impact that Alan Rollins, one of your main key grips, has had on Cinemoves and on the industry as a whole is huge. I'll give you a quick example. I think you guys were getting ready to start. Was it Guardians? And Alan Rico ordered a off-road base to use on stage.
Yeah.
And that was on hold, and that was on the books. And as I often do, I come and visit you guys during prep. A couple of weeks before you're starting to shoot, I came to the stage, and when we saw all the props and all the set dressing and stuff, we were like, where the hell is an off-road base going to fit on this stage? What you really need is the stock chassis with motors on it. And Alan said, you're right, make that happen. We went back, of course, I turn around to my people because I don't have a freaking clue and say, how are we going to make this work? So what started as solving one problem for one particular show ends up morphing into a standalone product. And, I don't know if Mike Howell's muted or not, but try to get him to take a crane out now without the motivators on it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, there you haven't lived until you've been pulling a 50-foot base through sawdust at 3 a.m. and had the handle snap off.
And
which I have.
the other thing, and where I think where I come into the scenario, and the one thing that I could probably take a little bit of credit for is coming from the field. 35 years as a grip, I represent our customers and clients as much, if not more, than I do, the vendor side of the business. So, and then throw on top of that, I'm just a weirdo, man. I got a passion for this shit.
Yeah.
I still get up in the morning 35 years later without the alarm clock. I'm excited to, I like all these moving parts.
Yeah. I mean, I can always tell by your attitude when you show up, you're happy to see everybody, and you're always, it's always a pleasure to see you. If a Dolly Grip, and I don't want you to get swamped with calls, with ideas for crap. I'm not trying to do that. But if a Dolly Grip has an idea, what process should he call you? Send you an email?
Swamp me with calls. I want to be swamped with those type of calls. That is the most fun I have. When I see Alan Rollins or Chris Centrella's, or Kurt Corneman's or yours or Rico's name on caller ID, I get excited because that's the stuff. And you get a guy like Alan Rollins that cares about what I think and wants to collaborate. I love that shit. And I'll collaborate with anybody. And because here's one thing I've absolutely learned. And this is, and I'll take a second just to give you and Sean props. This is bitching what you guys are doing. This is really, really cool in a lot of ways. And I was only introduced. Wick was pestering me for a few weeks that I need to get on this thing. And when I did, I was like, wow. But, having somebody, it's the collaboration. When I get to collaborate with the Alan Rollins, the Ricos, the Chris Centrellas, that's so much fun for me. And it's the epitome of what Cinemoves is about. There's never been an idea that I've come up with that hasn't been made better as it's gone through the process of collaboration. And when people are open to that, what I wanted to throw out as a message to the very people I think you guys put this thing together for is those younger Dolly Grips coming up. Guys, you collaborate with your keys, collaborate with your operators, have a good attitude, and your moves and your experiences will be and your product will be so much better than it would be if you act like an island and you're the only one that has to do it with your success.
Correct. And there's something I've always told young Dolly Grips that have asked me questions where I've said, form a relationship with your vendors, form a relationship with Chapman, Fisher, your crane companies, Cinemoves, ProCam, have a relationship with them and they will treat them right. They'll solve every problem you have. I'm mainly a Chapman user, but I've called Frank. Frank K has pulled me, and he probably doesn't even remember it.
Okay.
But I had a situation a few years ago, and I
you
called
hear
Frank and said, and he fixed it. You know,
Can you hear?
and you know, form a relationship with vendors because they will save your ass.
Yeah.
Don't just be a guy who shows up and loads out and leaves.
And you hit the nail on the head, and that's what I was getting to. It's that collaboration,
Yeah.
and that because we are, you know, everybody, all the vendors I'm sure on this call, and all the vendors all over there, whether they've got set experience or not, they're your partners, man. They're your support group, and that's one thing that, you know, I take every single job I'm involved with. I feel like I'm part of.
Yeah.
You know, whether I've been out on set or whether I even know the you know, the key or not.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm excited about being a positive part. So yeah, have anybody who wants to call has got an idea. You know, we love that stuff.
Right. Would they just go to, are you at cinemoves.com? Is that where you're at?
Yeah. info@cinemoves.com.
Okay.
Or 941-650-7411. That's me.
Okay. And we'll hopefully we'll let everybody give their numbers and emails and everything like that
Yeah.
at the end if they want to. Now you guys don't just do I mainly know you as Technicranes. Of course, I'm involved. You know, can you tell me about anything? What I know you were talking about the matrix mode for the remote heads. Talk to me about your remote heads.
Well, you know, I like our little tagline. I think it really says who we are. It's the art of camera movement.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, anything that has to do with that. We'll play with, you know, the wire rigs. We have the power slider rigs. We have, you know, the aerial rigs. We have it all. And if we don't have it, we have a relationship with someone that does.
Right.
So, you know, I'm a filmmaker. I'm true to the image. You're only going to get my piece of gear if it's the right piece of gear for the job. And then I want to maintain those relationships with the people that, you know, if I don't have the right one, they do. But yeah, we're all across, we cover the entire spectrum of camera movement. Our flagships, like you mentioned, are the telescopic cranes and the stabilized remote heads. But then we're into the Russian arm type cranes. We've got the battery systems, the electric cars, the off-road bases. You know, we're heavily into multi-camera arrays. That's become kind of a passion of mine. And we do a lot of that, not just for film and for plates, but we've become kind of a known entity in the dome theater work. So we do a lot of, you know, we do most of Disney's domes and Circle Vision. There's a really big project going on out in Las Vegas right now called the MSG Sphere, which is an 18,000 seat dome, 165 degree by 165 degree field of view. And we've developed a camera capture system and movement system for that. So we're kind of, anything that has to do with moving the camera.
Yeah, you guys are heavy into, I know a couple of shows we've used, you guys have had some really cool powered sliders that go really fast, and used one on the job I'm doing now, or was doing now.
You and Rico and Alan are one of the few people that pull me out of the shop on a regular basis. But in all honesty, I didn't tell you guys this then. That was only because nobody else was available. That's the only time they send me.
Cool. Now, and staying with kind of the road, and just kind of to round us out here, everybody, and I've heard from a couple of Key Grip buddies of mine that they're also hearing that remote heads will be more used more in this, you know, until things go back to normal.
Well, I think that, I don't think it's just till. So here's my take on it, guys, is there's going to be some changes that are going to happen, but during this COVID shutdown, they're not going to necessarily be because of COVID in the long term, but COVID's going to accelerate some things. And a remote head on a dolly is one of those. You know, we started seeing it, you know, actually years ago, they were throwing Libras on the hybrid. And that was, you know, used for certain situations. Now, with the advancement and stabilization and you know, some of the heads being able to go in what we call matrix mode, you started to see that a little bit more. Now, here comes COVID, And, you know, does the operator want to be rubbing elbows with the first AC that he hasn't seen in a while and doesn't know, you know, that social distancing thing becomes an issue. But what I think a lot of you guys have already seen, having that dolly or having that head on the dolly, and quite often not having to lay track and being able to do tracking moves, and just, you know, setting your operator up in a remote location, remote operating, and leaving him in one position, and the dolly grip now pushing a dolly that only has the weight of the head on it as opposed to two other guys, and he doesn't have to lay the track and have the director go, wow, I wish it was 3 feet over this way. Now, you know, what's that look like as more people get exposed to that and see how not only efficient it can be, but still, you know, even add some creativity. You know, is this something? It's not going to change. It's not going to be the only way we do things in the future, but I definitely think it's going to be a big part of the future.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm all for it. I have a great time with it because it actually gives the dolly grip a little bit more autonomy, you know, because basically, you know, you're really the only one in there with you and the boom guy and an actor, you know, and it's kind of up to you to solve problems.
And we're testing it. We're testing it right now. We're on a job with Wally Pfister, Dave Lukenbach's operating, and then Mango is dolly gripping. So here's the scenario. Mango's got the dolly. They just sent me a video. He's down the hallway, just him and the dolly down by the actor. Dave has got our handheld mimic mode rig we have for the Matrix. So he's giving it that handheld feel, but the shot requires a 360 roll. So then we've got Wally remotely on the 360 wheel doing a roll while Dave's doing a handheld move. So not only did we, you know, do you now have the capability of, you know, being up close to the actor with the handheld feel, but, you know, the operator being 20 feet away, you've got the extra capability of doing a roll. So now you've got a move and you've got a feel that you would have otherwise not been able to achieve. Right. And this is the one thing that if there's one thing we do as key grips and dolly grips and grips for that matter, we're problem solvers. You know, COVID gave us some challenges, and I'm so excited about some of the cool shit that's going to come from that. And that's what I said, you know, COVID's going to go away. They're going to get this thing under control eventually, but there's going to be some bitchin' things that, you know, get accelerated or stick around.
Cool. Well, Scotty, thank you. We have to unfortunately kind of move on.
Hey, but before we move on, can I say something?
No.
Please. So, Scott, did you have any photographs you could show us of what you were talking about?
Yeah, you know what? This is a real quick one. What I wanted to show when we, you know, going back to the remote head on it, I talked a little bit about the GFM pedestal dolly. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things we've been working on since the shutdown. And hold on one second here. This is our friends over at GFM. Can you guys see that?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So, you know, this to me, this is exciting. So first of all, this is the GF Primo, the GF Jib, and then you can see we have the Matrix and Matrix mode. Now, if you can see my cursor, we've since manufactured a dove plate that goes right here, so it brings the head in another 18 inches. Mm-hmm. So you're just about identical to a Fisher 10 or a hybrid in overall length when you have the head in Matrix mode, and you have wireless capability on this. So this is what you end up with.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
So you're ground based to 8-foot lens height, and you can touch the bottom of the camera to the ground, and you can touch the top of the head to a ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, you can do that same thing with a hybrid, with a 10. And I think that this is one of the ones that, like I said, it's not going to change. It's not the only way we're going to do things. But I think this is going to become a much more popular way and configuration in the future.
Well, I was talking, Mark Hyde actually brought this all up. He texted me earlier about putting a head in matrix mode on a dolly. I'm going to share a couple of photographs that he sent. He sent me this, and it shows there might even be the matrix in matrix mode. The issue that I have with it is that it makes the dolly really long. And the issue he's had is that it's overwhelming the booms on the dollies. I know the Hustler, we'll get into it when we talk to Chapman, but we're going to bring this up with Chapman and Fisher. Like, is there any sort of plan to make the dollies be able to handle the weight? I mean, this is something that if we're going to start doing this a lot in the future, it's going to be a relevant topic to bring up.
Yeah, well, my 2 cents on that, and obviously the dolly, companies would be the best ones to answer as far as the hydraulics go. But on that picture you just showed,
I'll share another one.
Yeah, if you want to bring that one back up.
Okay, I'll bring another one back up.
I mean, I think that we get away from the leveling head and we go directly to the end of the arm. So, does my cursor come up on that? No.
No. What are you talking about? Right in here?
Yeah, right in there. So instead of having that L bracket there,
yeah,
we go down to where the neural, yeah, right there. And
go directly to that.
Yeah, go directly to that, because one, you're going to be able to hit the ground with that, so you get the lowest level possible.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of the wank and a lot of the strain out of it. But like I said, I'm sure Chapman and Fisher have a lot better insight on that.
I'm going to share one more before we move on. Is this the piece you're talking about?
Yeah, so that's no longer there. So if you take the matrix and you move it back to where that red circle is, that's where the new dove plate is.
So that takes that's even less leverage on the camera to flip everything over.
Yeah, so we don't have, there's no issue with that. And then we've got the Cineflip that we've designed as well, and I think there's other versions of that out there, and that allows you to quickly go from underslung, overslung, matrix mode, so you can quickly adjust for the particular shot.
Yeah, corner camera, Matt Davis, I don't know if he's still with ProCam, he's got his that's similar, but I don't think it's as compact as the Cineflip.
Right. Right. That's a dual purpose. That works as a leveling head for a crane.
Yeah.
As well as being able to change that orientation quickly.
Okay. Well, sorry to interrupt, but thank you, Scott. Thank you very much.
All right. So yeah, thank you guys, Scott and Mike and John Slade. Okay, we're going to move on to Chapman, and I know Shafi's here. He's been causing trouble since he got in. We can unmute Shafi. And Shafi, I don't know if anybody else from Chapman's here or not.
Frank's here.
Yeah, we have Shafi Khan, Frank McKenna, James Razzo.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
So I'm going to basically ask the same questions that I asked of Scott, and we'll also towards the end we'll answer some of these. Hopefully, see if you guys can answer some of these other questions at the end of that. New products, development, et cetera. You got anything new coming out? I just saw is it the Hustler Hybrid 5? The new one with the battery?
Yes, we have a Hybrid 5, Hustler 5, and a PV5 is also coming in. There, we have the first ones done. We're making more of the 5s.
Mm-hmm. And tell us what's the difference between the 4s and the 5 series.
All right, so the 5s are got lithium battery on board, so you can charge a dolly from the battery all day long, pretty much. And then at nighttime, you charge the battery. And the same thing, the more lifting capacity than Hustler 4. It's a 750 plus. When you guys were talking about metric mode, we can put on the Hustler 4 or Hustler 5 or hybrid, any hybrid dolly, or even the PV dolly.
Yeah, yeah. So you've already got have you got a piece manufactured for that?
Yes, we do have it. And also the 411 head, you could put it on the nose. That would give it that metric mode as well.
Right.
Yes, Scott was exactly right. Where the mounting point should be right in the center of the arm there, and that's its most rigid configuration. So we do have a couple of one-off modified heads for the particular heads, the M7 dovetail stipe, which I believe is universal with the Matrix as well.
Okay. Hey, James, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
James, one of the things that Mark brought up was the capacity limits of the dolly. Like if you put a matrix in matrix mode, or put an M7 in matrix mode on a Peewee dolly, isn't that going to overwhelm the arm?
You know, that should not overwhelm the arm. I mean, that corner nose, as far as I know, is not that heavy, and we're only talking, you know, a 75-pound type of, you know, remote head, matrix mode. Obviously, it's going to be, you know, heavier where you extend the load further out, but we still have, you know, at least double and triple lifting capacity. So I'm not sure what happened in those particular scenarios. We'll have to discuss it further with Mark and see if there is a vulnerable point, and then make the appropriate modifications. But, you know, most of these arms they have a lifting capacity of up to, you know, 750 pounds. You know, so that's should be well over the capacity of a remote head, you know, in the cantilever mode on those particular dollies.
Yeah.
He did mention that when it happened, it was in secondary markets where he wasn't completely sure of the maintenance upkeep, but he didn't say where, but maybe it's something you can talk to him about. So. Sorry.
Right.
I mean,
that's great.
I was confused. And maybe Mark can elaborate on this a little, because I put an Oculus on an offset 3 feet out and been fine with it, you know.
Right.
So maybe it's a secondary market thing. And Mark can elaborate on that in a little while, maybe. So guys, how is innovation happening at Chapman? I know every time I've been there, there's sparks flying everywhere and people are yelling and welding's happening. And it's like a chop shop in there. What's going on? How are you designing new stuff? I know Mr. Leonard was always coming in every morning for a while designing.
Yeah, you know, Leonard's incredibly excited about, you know, his product line. I mean, he literally, you know, lives and breathes this industry. He goes home every night thinking about how he can develop something, improve something. He listens to everybody's feedback and, you know, works on it on a regular basis, trying to make, you know, improvements to the equipment, trying to, you know, devote his time and, you know, innovations to the industry, you know, based on obviously all of you and your feedback, which has been a tremendous help, you know, and, but they have definitely had a little bit of an opportunity to, you know, ramp up productions here. You know, there was a ramp down in production, a complete shutdown in production, and now we're ramping back up production. So we're, you know, we left this industry with such incredibly high demand and shortages, especially in the dolly area. So we're focusing on, you know, manufacturing of, you know, all the new dollies, like Shafi said. All the products have reached the 5 series line. And that's our, you know, our core business here is the dollies. And, you know, like Shafi mentioned, the main innovation right now is lithium power. So we've had a huge investment into lithium technology. So Chapman is essentially engineering, designing all of their own lithium battery systems. And it's being implemented in almost every product that we have right now. So all the dollies are now have internal lithiums, so they're going to be completely, self-reliant on their own power source. You will no longer be tethered to, an electrical stinger, at your heels. But it also has the dual option of bypassing the lithium battery pack system and going with the conventional AC power, or you can run, the Dolly for essentially days on one battery system. And it also has an additional backup battery.
And what does that do weight wise?
Weight wise, I mean, it's very insignificant. Okay. Lithium packs are some of the lightest battery packs out there. And, this is a very low power consumption type of device. So it's not a very large battery pack system that's required to run this type of system. Mm-hmm. So it's a fairly small, self-contained, battery system.
Very cool. Will they explode? No, I'm just kidding. No,
these are new style type of lithiums, the polymar type of lithium systems, which are, certified, and they are, safe to fly, provided you follow all the protocols.
Okay. Now talk to me about your remote head division.
So the remotes and the cranes, which I'm actively involved in, all the remotes and the cranes within Chapman and also out in the field. And there's a continued development of, our bases, our cranes, and our remote heads. And we always like to say, we're building the right horse for the right course. So we have a variety of bases for our telescopic cranes. The newest innovations and the updates to the bases, beyond the gas-powered bases that we offer, we now have almost all of our standard stage bases that are electric powered through our lithium battery pack system and an internal motor drive. So they will all be electric power bases here very shortly. We have, a handful of our bases that are standard to the 50-footer per se, and the 73-footer, which are electric drive type of chassis bases. And those are the standard bases.
Right.
So.
Yeah, now, if somebody has an idea, Dolly Grip has an idea, a suggestion, what channel would they go through to kind of get that to you?
I mean, absolutely. Chapman's always open to phone calls during business hours and even after hours if it's an emergency service call. But I'm always here present at Chapman, and our emails are listed on the Chapman website for product support and remote systems, and also per se to dollies.
Now, we asked Scotty this a minute ago. What do you see in the future of camera movement? Pretty much the same kind of.
I mean, definitely, Scott mentioned dolly and remote camera operation, and that's definitely a vision that we have, and we saw it, taking place even before COVID, just because. Operators are so accustomed to operating remote heads. They would prefer to stand at a remote cart, remote operation, and be detached from the dolly, be more in contact with the director, the DP, and huddled in that arena. And, it's now going to be a safer environment that we're hoping, and a more efficient environment. And, as Scott mentioned, as the technology has evolved, stabilization, 4-axis gimbals, we have so many varieties of configurations for the remote heads. It's, the M7 Evo system, it's no longer just the standard underslung configuration or an overslung configuration. You know, as you know, you can straight mount cantilever. You can mount these in any camber off angle and essentially have all angles of camera movement. You can still look straight up, straight down, left, right, and have the ability to have a full independent roll access. So it's pretty exciting to see, you know, the evolving product and coupling this with the dolly. So it's turning, you know, a mechanical dolly into a gyro stabilized, wireless, you know, electronically operated system. And it's really been, you know, a fantastic tool. A lot of you have used them already. So, and I think you see the advantages of running the dolly, you know, on cobblestone or streets or sidewalks without even laying track and still being able to stabilize images.
Right. Very cool.
You know,
Sean, you got a...
I do. You know, I wanted to talk about that. Like one thing that the M7, the Oculus, and Matrix all have in common are I was absolutely astounded by the backpan compensation. How I could move the chassis of the dolly to, you know, reorganize it to move in a different direction, and the frame would stay really solid. And that was something I'd never experienced before. And rolling it across bricks and just being able to you know, pretty much do whatever I want. I'm just amazed by that technology. But I do what I really want to talk about is like the maintenance aspect of Chapman. So I'm confused. Well, everybody knows Shafi. Any Dolly Grip that lives in LA knows who Shafi Khan is. He's our go-to guy. I call him for everything, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am of Shafi. I don't know Frank very well, but Frank, do you do all of the outside LA dollies? How does that work?
Absolutely. I'm involved in training guys on how to do maintenance to the dollies. And also I'm quality control. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
No.
So that's basically, you know, what I do. And also helping guys to build dollies.
Well, last summer I was in New York doing a film, and I had a problem with the miniscope, and I ended up calling James and Shafi, and they helped me out. But it was a lease dolly out of Canada, and I'm just curious, what is the protocol for that kind of stuff? Like I automatically call Shafi because of my relationship with Shafi and James, but what would you recommend for?
No, well, let me tell you something, guys. When this type of problems happen, it's a lot better to contact the technician from the rental house. For some reason, I'm hearing this echo while I'm talking, guys. So sorry, okay? So let me know
Frank,
if I'm not clear.
If you don't mind, I can help Sean with that question as well.
Please.
Go ahead.
The lease customers are all independently owned and operated, and so the lease company is per se responsible for their particular product line. And like Frankie mentioned, if there is ever, you know, a maintenance requirement or some type of a support that's needed for that particular product, it should be directed to the particular lease company of where that particular dolly was leased from.
Right. Okay.
So, and if you aren't getting the support that you need, you know, Chapman's more than happy to, you know, help you out and get you the support that you need. But your first point of contact when a dolly is rented, particularly from one of the outside region lease customers, it should go particularly to that lease customer.
Okay, cool.
Jump in real quick.
Yeah.
For us with Fisher, that's exactly the same thing. We require that our out of Los Angeles long-term lease customers have a trained technician provide training either in Los Angeles or in the Cologne office. And we give those guys support, but we really don't want to compete with them or step on their toes. It's a difficult thing because, just like the guys with Chapman, you guys are working on dollies 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. You know the insides and the outsides of every machine much better than a guy who's got two and is slightly bewildered by the technology of them sometimes and trying to have weekends and have a business and have a family. So we absolutely want to start with that guy. If you're not getting the answer you want, our number's on the dollar and call us.
Yeah, it's the conundrum there is when we're traveling and doing jobs and we have an immediate issue that, like you said, can't be resolved by somebody who's working at a rental house that also deals with lighting and grip equipment and God only knows what. And they only deal with dollies when there's an issue, and there's a lot of head scratching that goes on. Not to discount their abilities, but like you said, they don't work on dollies all day, every day. So it's like, we need to solve this problem right now.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sean, can I say something?
Yeah.
So just going back to Frankie, I own Chapman dollies, and I've had issues from time to time over the years. And I call Frank sometimes. I try and Shuffy, or I try Frank, and I get Frank. I've got him sometimes at 2 in the morning, where his time, and he's sat me through a complete opening of the gearbox on a hybrid and putting it back together so I get the dolly back running. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and he's sitting there I'm sending him WhatsApp images of pieces of the gearbox in my hand, and he's taking it and making marks and sending it back to me. And I remember once he was watching a baseball game with drinking beer with his friends, and then he sat through the night with me, getting the hybrid back up running because it had been dropped and the pins had gone out of registration. So I mean, I know for sure that when I call Chapman, Shuffy or Frank are gonna have my back. I have no doubt. And I was in France just now, and we had five dollies that came in from. We got 3 Peewees and 2 hybrids from Paris to Angoulême, where we were filming, and all the dollies couldn't lift the camera. And going back to the problem with the dolly not lifting in matrix mode, and we found. I remember Frank's and Shafi, both of them. The first thing they say is check the nitrogen level, and I checked it, and the oil and nitrogen were both really low, and they hadn't been ever filled, I think, from when they had been shipped over, or I don't know what the deal was, but we charged the nitrogen up and it was back up and running, So that could have been an issue with that dolly, which wasn't lifting the remote head. Because
That's correct, yeah.
I've lifted Steadicam operators with a full Steadicam package on the nose of a hybrid with no issue at all.
Hey, James, I know the Hustlers are all rated for 750 pounds. Are all the hybrids rated for 750 pounds as well?
That's a question for Shafi as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the hybrids are, the hybrid 1 and 2, some of them has increased payload. Otherwise, they have 500, but we can adjust the increased payload with 750. The Hustler 5 is a 750 plus, so you can actually put more than 750.
Wow. Cool. Thank you.
And
yeah,
also
the 5 series, they increase the payload as well as the lithium battery packs.
Oh, cool.
Right. And also the PV5 has almost 500 lifting capacity versus 320 pound, the PV4s. So
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Sorry to hijack the meeting there, Daryl.
My show.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chapman, Frank, and James, and Shafi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you guys very much for inviting Chapman and Leonard and ourselves to your Dolly forum here. We appreciate it.
course,
Thank
we
you,
couldn't
Jim.
do what we do without you guys. So we're going to move on to our friends from Fisher. I know Wick is here. I know Frank K is here. And just to, I kind of alluded to a story a minute ago, which kind of goes along with what we were just talking about. Years ago, I was doing a movie, and it seems like I was in Northern California, and we had gotten a Fisher 10 through a rental house somewhere, and it didn't work. And my best boy, Rico, called the rental house, and he said, well, we can probably get you one tomorrow or maybe the next day. And I said, no, I need it now. It's literally not working. And they said, well, I'm sorry, we just can't get to you. And I called Frank K. And Frank said, give me 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, the best boy walked up to me and said, there's a dolly on the way. It'll be here within the hour. And soon after that, the rental house guy called my best boy and said, what did you do? He said, I just got an ass reading from Frank K. and told him to get you a dolly now. And that was probably 15 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And Frank, thank you. You did save my ass those many years ago.
You're welcome, and that's part of what we say too, just like the Chapman guys, is talk to the local rental house where you got it from first, because that's where it came from, and you want to keep that relationship good, as you might need other equipment from them. You really don't want to step on anybody's toes. If you are having a problem, please call us. That's what we're there for. We are the second line of defense, but we will be there to support you anywhere we possibly can, even if you're out of the area.
Yeah, you certainly did that day. So new products and developments. I know you guys recently redid the hydraulics on the 10, which Frank and Jimmy took me through at Cinegear last year, or a couple years ago. They were nice enough to kind of show me the ins and outs of it, and I was very impressed with it. What can you tell me?
So look, here's what we're going to do. Wick is going to take care of all the technical stuff. I am basically his trophy date for this afternoon. So, Wick, have at it.
And
It's coronavirus time, people. That's all I got.
Wick, I'm
No judge.
I'm having a little trouble understanding you. I know you're in Rome or
Yeah.
someplace. Just
Yeah, hang on, let me try something here. This might work. Let's see if this changes things.
better already.
Yeah, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just leave these guys out then. Yeah, I'm in a hotel room in Rome. I managed to get the laundry out of the shot at least. But I was just going to say, in addition to that story of problems coming up from distant rental houses, we had one a while back because of the serial number. An American crew working in Morocco called LA with a problem with a dolly. When they got the message, they passed it on to me back in Germany. The serial number was for a company in a European country. We won't bother naming who it is. But within about 6 hours, we had parts on the way to the guys there, along with the instructions to fix it. They're at the other end of the world. And the rental house, yeah, they got that same talking to, that Frank gave to your guy. We want you guys to have, anywhere you go in the world, our goal is to keep the A-listers happy. That's the high end of the game. We're very glad to take care of everything else domestically in smaller markets and that sort of thing, and it's important to us. But we know that you guys are used to a standard that we provide in California. You sort of assume you're going to get that anywhere you walk in the world. And we'll have sleepless nights to make sure you stay there. Now, with new products, what we've been doing and putting all our energy into for the last, seems like 20 years now, I think it's been 2 years, is the RHC, the Refined Hydraulic Control. And that's an upgrade on the 10s and on the 11s. It's on everything. We're doing this on basically every dolly in production. If anybody's played with it, they know the difference. What an incredible change in the feel that it makes. We got rid of those little string here. It's gone. Anybody that remembers that? This is a new control. Not sure if you can see this well.
Yeah.
These two knobs.
Yeah.
And you can use these for a whole series of wonderful adjustments and that sort of thing. There's information through our website about it. You can go into any rental house that's got them and play with them. They're just a fun toy. And it makes everything so much easier. The arm's quicker, the arm's slower. have smoothed all the problems that were known with our control for years are gone. I won't go into all the details of it, but it's been a huge project for us within the company. And it's been a huge learning curve, and we're just really, really happy about it.
Yeah. I got to say that it is a remarkable difference. But, you know, there's always been a difference between Chapman and Fisher. And of course, there are many, many Dolly Grips that prefer Fisher, prefer Chapman. Some prefer Chapman. It's just a matter of taste. And but the difference in the control to me was just remarkable. It was like butter. It was nice.
Yeah, I sent you that video for one of the first tests we did of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done.
Just to rub salt in the wound.
Yeah. So how else is innovation happening in your company? Are you coming? Are there more different things coming out, jib wise? Or I know I'm a big fan of the Fisher 23. I've been for years. Is there anything
we can't build those fast enough? That just for y'all, everybody that doesn't know me, up until I started working for Fisher, I was a working group. I had a rental house in Germany. I still keep my card active in 52 because why not? And so same like Scott, I've been there. I've stood there in the rain and watched things just go terribly wrong. I've stood there in the rain and watched them work too. And it's like the same thing, like all this. It's in my blood. Do you know? It's not another definition of how things are. In terms of new developments, we're just still wrapped up deeply in the RHC program. This is such a huge change. We're just trying to get the entire fleet done right now, which is just an enormous amount of machining and change. Right. Things that we're seeing coming up is the same thing. There's a lot of talk about a move to remote heads in sets. In fact, without getting into the COVID, that shall not be named situation, I was just in on a group conference last week, and the Australian freelancers guilds or unions are recommending that everything be done on remote heads, on dollars. So that was an interesting one. We've also had some interesting conversations, people saying, how can I keep my 6 feet distance from the dolly, and trying to figure out ways to bolt on additional controls to move people further away from the controls of the dolly. It's just not going to work. So there's a real world area somewhere in the middle there. That's mainly where we're at right now. We're just dealing with that. I see a change to more automation in a lot of ways, but ultimately the dolly being operated by a person. As long as we actually have actors in front of the camera who are going to make changes, have ideas, be inspired, miss their marks, do all the good and bad things they do, programming that out just ain't going to work. So we're mainly just concerned with that. I'm curious about the issues of the matrix not working. In that photo, by the way, one thing I wondered about, it looked like they had put a lot of ballast on the arm to counterbalance the head. That didn't make any sense to me. Yeah, that one.
I think it's the electronics for the head itself.
Yeah, it's a battery, it looks like, and some other stuff.
Right, but it just seems like moving all that load off of the arm. Doesn't need to ride on there. Put a sideboard on it.
Yeah, normally I put it on the sideboard or someplace else for sure.
Yeah. Just seems like, I mean, the head is about 70 pounds. The camera package is about another 70. That's well within the parameters of the arm.
Oh yeah, I've done that configuration many times with an offset, and it works. It may go a hair slower or something, but still.
And I hate to say it, but it just sounds like the rental house had neglected some basic stuff on the dolly.
Yeah, that's what it sounds.
Which happens.
Yeah. Now, I know you told me a couple of years ago you were going and retrofitting all the dollies with a new hydraulic system. How's that moving along?
Well, that's what I'm in Italy right now.
How about the U.S.? How much?
That's all going through California, which, thanks to COVID, nothing's happening right now.
Right. I just
we're building the stuff as fast as we can. We're getting it out there as fast as we can. I think, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong on this. We've got LA pretty much done at this point. All the 10s and 11s within the local market.
Most of the local dollies, the 10s and 11s in town are pretty much finished. We have about 4 or 5 that don't have it on there because there are some Dolly Grips that like the old system, as unusual as that might be.
Some like the lever.
They just like to cut the string and just say, "Hey, look what I did." Yeah. But it's most everything in town is pretty much done. So we're pretty caught up there. The other thing I want to say is in relation to outside of LA rental houses and what happens is that when a company signs up with us, one of the stipulations of the lease is they're a mechanic. And we specify we want somebody who has mechanical abilities, not anybody like me, but really working mechanics that can take a dolly apart, put it back together, understand everything that goes on. So if something does happen and somebody's out of town, Alan, our lead dolly tech, can talk to the mechanic at that facility and pretty much talk them through anything that's going on with the dolly, provided that it's not a part that they don't have that has to be replaced. So that they are in for comprehensive training before they go back to the company they work for. Now, as you all said, they're also responsible for the lighting stuff, other grip stuff, everything else. They don't work on dollies every day. So if they're not, they could possibly forget something or forget to do something, but we're pretty much on them during the training that by the time they leave, they're pretty knowledgeable about what goes on.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's another nice side thing with that is because of the time difference between California and Germany, pretty much any time of the day or night, you can reach somebody from us to help.
Okay.
I don't
Sean,
sleep anyway.
Sean, you got anything?
I think for anybody that hasn't used the new boom system, it's a game changer. It's I know like the Mike Brennans and the Moose Schultzes, really, they were able to adjust the boom in a way that it worked for them. I myself had a harder time figuring out, but with the new boom system, it's really changes things. If you live in a market where your Fisher dollies do not have those pieces, I would work on the rental houses on getting that done, because it changes, it dummy proofs the boom for dolly grips, especially new dolly grips. You know, where you're trying to find that indent where you have to just barely move the camera and you're indenting and then you miss the mark and then they cut the camera and you've wrecked the shot. Now you can really dial it into where you need to be. And I can't tell you how much it changes things for me, because, you know, in 30 years, I could never figure it out. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a beautiful system. Yeah. It really is. Okay, thank you, Fisher. You guys, Frank or Wick, you guys have anything else you want to add?
Oh, we're playing around with track wheels still. We've got some things coming along in there that are improving stuff there.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
You gonna stick with the bogey wheels, or?
That's probably going to be the way we're going to go. The change from them just involves a whole new geometry of the frame, whole new geometry of the transmission. So with the existing models, I think we're going to stay where we are. We got the skateboard wheels. I mean, come on, you know, show a little bit more.
They're nice.
Those are real sweet.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Frank and Wick, very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you both very much.
You know, we appreciate you guys. We're going to move on to GFM, which I believe is Mr. Chris Hobbs, who is going to, where are you, Chris? Are you there? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
There he is.
You can hear me. Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Now, Chris, you represent GFM, correct?
Yes, I do.
Yes. And I know I got an email with some stuff that we will get into in a minute that you have on your menu. New products and developments from GFM, and I know. Hang on, I apologize. I have the email right here somewhere. But go ahead and talk to me about new stuff you got coming up, Chris.
Sure. For most of you who I probably haven't met, I've been doing sales of grip stuff for about the last 5-6 years. And then I decided to set up my own business, which is called CL Hobbs. And I'm the distributor for GFM, for Blacktek, and for Cinemoves, which is a UK battery company. The way I thought I'd sort of approach this is pretend that you're all at NAB or Cinegear, And rather than one person coming to the booth, I've got, 150 of the best grips in town coming to the booth. So forgive me if I'm somewhat nervous.
Yeah.
To give you an update on GFM, first of all, Derek McGee and his family, when coronavirus hit Germany, basically they've managed to keep the factory going. There's enough distance between each of the operators on the CNC machines for it to be safe, but sales pretty much closed down to just 1 day a week. But as of about a week ago, they're all pretty much back and forth going full-time at GFM. They have come up with some great new developments. The first one is, and this was all the stuff that we showed at the last trade show we did was BSC this year in London, BSC 2020, where I saw Wick and a number of the other manufacturers. So they've come up with a swivel system. There's some pictures as well that you can add, but the swivel system basically comes off the tubes, their tube system, and it's also got a swivel Mitchell 4-way or a 3-way, however you want to do it. And because of the teeth system, you can see there, it locks in beautifully. So that's one of their new toys. And the other new toy is the one that Scott Howell at Cinemoves helped them develop, which is that Mitchell nose mount, which is now available as well. That will mount on, for those of you who have a GF jib, it'll go on that. The mini jib or the baby jib, they are working on the mount to go on the GF cranes. They're currently working on that one at the moment. That's pretty much the new stuff that we were showing at GFM. That's the swivel mount there. So it'll come off anything with a Euro at one end, and then you're just using the tube system as you go. So that's any questions. Throw me any questions you've got on GFM. And I do want to do what the young people call a shout out to John Slade of Cinemoves. John and Scott used to handle all of GFM sales, also Blacktek, and I think Cine Power sales for a number of years. And then I was approached by Derek because my understanding was that the business was just getting so much for Cinemoves that they actually wanted someone else to handle it. So that's where my company, CL Hobbs, has come in. So I think John Slade has been fantastic and has hopefully got some more time to just, work on proper grip stuff rather than endless quotes on the computer. One of the things I set up here at my place was, in the past, I'd been the US rep for Panther, for Romford Baker, for KFX heads. It's an awful lot of teaching people how to use the equipment and make them so that they're comfortable. So what I did here was I made sure that in my place I've got facilities that people can come and just learn. People can just come and play with the gear in an environment where there's not 100 pairs of eyes looking at them going, why isn't it working? So that's something I've done for a number of years already, and I've set it up now, and I actually have a dedicated Blacktek lounge where I covered all the walls in Lexan. So you and stick it to the walls, pretending it's a car, or we can go outside and mount it on the car there. So basically, I've set up the shop here. If you're in Los Angeles, you're more than welcome to give me a call, and we'll have hand sanitizer and masks and stuff like that. The other thing that I'm working on doing is a traveling roadshow where I'm actually going to fill the car with all the car rigging gear and drive around. It depends on how bad the virus gets. But if it gets to safer levels and production still hasn't really ramped up, I don't want to sit around and do nothing for a few months. So I might actually tour the country and bring my own little NAB cine gear on the road, book in with people and come to your shop. Because the big thing I've found is that with a lot of the gear, you need to actually have familiarity with the gear to use it effectively. And that's the same with all the dollies that you currently use. Once you're familiar with the gear, you learn all the little things that make it so much better. But when you're at a trade show, you sometimes have 20 minutes to look at the booth and we just don't have time to actually go through it with you. Whereas this way, I actually give you half a day and we rig the car and you go, oh, that's really cool. That really works quite well. So that's one of the ideas that I'm coming up with over the next few months, is to maybe go on the road, book in with you guys, meet new people in Atlanta, in New York, in Louisiana, all the people I haven't had the chance to actually meet face to face. And because we all missed the trade shows this year, actually come out and say, hey, let's have a play with it for a day and see how you like it, and I'll take you through the system.
Very cool. Now I do see you had a new ISO dampener from Blacktek.
I do.
Which,
Here it is.
which I would like to see.
There's some pictures of it that I sent you as well. Scott Howell may be able to actually answer better for you technically how it does and why it does. Basically, it was designed in conjunction with Frank Kay of ANC, and Frank was the inventor of the hothead. He's the most lovely man in the world. So they designed it so that when the techno crane is coming out at full whack and stops, they said there was always a slight bump that they were finding that the other ISO dampeners weren't being able to take out. This apparently will do it. So this is their new toy that we were showing at the trade shows, which does that. It's got the oil dampeners in there and in there. But the other thing that they have with this is a brand new quick mount system. And if you can see that there, I've got the lock-off mechanism here.
Yeah.
The quick mount actually just goes.
Wow.
Quick mount goes in like that and locked. That's it. So
and what mounts for that?
What's that?
The camera mount, the head mounts to that?
Yeah, so this one I'm holding up here has got the holes drilled for the Harry SRH or the shot over, but you can actually get the plates and they will do it. You can drill them out to whatever your head is. Nice. So you mount that permanently sits on the top of your stab head, and then you can also get it with a Mitchell as well. So the ISO dampener that Blacktek has come out with, the first thing is it stopping that telescoping crane, getting that bump at the end. The second thing is that quick mount, so that when there's two of you struggling with some god-awful heavy head, there's not all that messing around with the Mitchell nut. It's just boom, chink, it's on. So that's a quick mount system from them.
Hey, not to throw you under the bus, but
throw me under.
But the guys from ProCam have been using the GFM version of that for their Libra heads for a while, especially John Bonin. How does that compare to the GFM version?
I haven't seen the GFM version of a quick mount like that.
No, the ISO damp.
ISO damp.
Oh, I'm not sure because I've got a GFM ISO dampener as well.
Yeah.
My understanding of this, and again, if Scott's still on the line and he understands this, there's something that they've made with this that takes out that bump at the end that the other ones weren't doing. I don't know quite how it does that, but apparently that's what they engineered it to do.
Is there room to get the soccer ball in there?
Don't know.
Oh, sorry.
You
sorry,
know
Scott.
what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to unmute Scott, but
hold on.
There you go. Okay, sorry.
Hey, help me, Scott. Help me.
I've been trying.
Sorry, Scott.
No, you're absolutely right, Sean. So GFM makes a phenomenal ISO damp, and both of them do very much the same. I haven't had hands-on with the Blacktek one yet, but we actually, John Slade's the one that sold all of those to ProCam and just about every other Libra, EdTech, and many of the others. It's like what we were talking before.
That's it.
Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you don't. You know, if we're talking about we're pushing in on someone, that's all about you guys, the dolly grips, if we're going to get within a foot or two of them, because with those ISO damps, you don't want that breathing of the lens when it stops. But what both Blacktek and GFM have done, which is really interesting, is on those shocks, we can adjust the outstroke independently of the instroke. So, if I'm going in really hard and fast, I can have that outstroke a little bit more tension on it than the back. So you can really start to dial in to get that sweet spot of not having any breathing when you're moving around or adjusting it to the particular payload. These are really, really valuable tools to have, and really good for your dolly grip, your young dolly grips, to know that these things can get you out of jail. They can make you look really good in certain situations.
Well, I know that the like the Matrix and the Oculus and the M7, they work just fine overslung with these devices, but the Libra doesn't really. Do you know if
Yeah, so this all comes down to level of stabilization. What a stabilized head would really like to have is what you want to do is do as much passive stabilization as you can before the head has to go to work.
Yeah.
So you can do the best about taking out the high frequencies, and that's where both the vertical ISO dampeners, the ISOs like Chris was just showing you, that's what they're there for. And the Libra is a perfect example. The Libra, the more you can do for it passively, that's why you've seen soccer balls, we've seen tennis balls, we've seen all sorts of the wire rope things. That's just to make it an easier job on that head. Now that's a 3-axis head. It's it's the go-to in the industry, and it's bulletproof, but it has a certain limit on stabilization. Then you move to the 4-axis head, the Oculus, Matrix, the M7. You just got a higher level. You got one redundant axis, no matter what direction you're pointing, and that just adds another layer of stabilization. And then you could kick all the way up to the aviation units that are 6-axis. They really don't need an ISO dampener like this, because basically 3 of those axes are what we call rough axis. They're acting like an ISO dampener. Then those inner fine 3 axis are taking care of the last bit of stabilization.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Scott. The next thing I want to chat about is something that's coming up in pretty much every one of these Zoom calls, and that's throwing a remote head on a dolly. What a lot of people are finding is that camera operators are saying, I need to learn the wheels, I need to learn the wheels, I need to learn the wheels. So Blacktek have had for a while this guy here, which is called a geared head simulator. And I've made a quick video, which I'll throw on Facebook probably in the next day or two. Basically, it plugs into either a Windows laptop or a Mac laptop, and you can practice the wheels. It's got the physical wheels there. You just set it up, and you've got the wheels, and you can build shots. So you can, one of the other things when I sold it to a local 600 operator recently was she was saying that since she's made the move to operating full time, she's now also responsible for creating and choreographing crane shots. So not only does she have to have proficiency on the wheels to operate, she also needs to think, what is this shot going to be? So this simulator lets her build shots and practice building shots. You can do crane moves, you can do any sort of move that you can come up with, and there's 3 different games that you can build up to 10 camera moves in. So you build your camera moves, and then you practice on the wheels. You can make it harder, you can make it easier. It's a great little tool. Because it comes in this little case, people, like a lot of companies around the world who own a lot of remote heads will buy one of these and either lend it to their nice customers or make a small rental on it to their customers. And it's just a way that they can, rather than people being in the shop and you have to set up a stab head over there and they're sitting in the shop all day practicing, you actually go, here, just take this and go away and leave us be free.
I'm a believer, Chris.
So,
and that's a great thing for you guys, for you young dolly grips, to borrow one of these things. Because I tell you what, it'll make you a better dolly grip. If you understand what your operator's going through and what he's having to do, and you don't ever get enough time to really get your hands on the wheels on set, right? This is a great tool.
Next one that I'll go with is for all you car rigging people out there. Blacktek make a fairly extraordinary system called the Air Rig. For a long time, when Thomas developed it, he was using 1-inch pipe. And everyone in the US was saying 1-inch pipe won't hold anything. I hate 1-inch pipe. We all use 1.5 or 1.25. What they've done is they've developed a new clamp that for those of you who are familiar with their system, will go into the different plates that they have. It will now take 1 inch, but it will go up to 1.5 or 1.25. So for those of you who are familiar with this system and have a few of them, it'll be like, oh, thank God. Because what I did find was there was a lot of key grips who were saying, I love it, but I don't actually want to have more pipe on the truck. So that solves that problem for them. They can go with the pipe they've got, or they can use the 1 inch or anything like that. I have here all the, actually, I'll just take you through. This is what I built in here, which is, this is the Blacktek workshop.
Oh, wow.
So this has got all the towers here, all the possible Blacktek towers. I have here all the air systems, and this is the Lexan I was talking about. So the thing with this system is you need to be any good with it, you need to practice. And then once you've practiced, you become very, very, very good. And I guess the biggest thing is until you know the system won't work for you. So what I chatted to the guys about when I took on Blacktek as a manufacturer, I said, well, listen, let's teach people how to do it, because that's the biggest thing. So I had this all set up here. So any of you who have time and you're in Los Angeles, feel free to call me. And then what I like to do is have key grips bring their teams in and bring in their best boy grip and whoever their car rigging people are and go, listen, play with the system, learn the system, give me your questions and we'll go from there. To give you an example, the British show Top Gear has been using this system for about the last 10 years. Then they've gone on to do the Grand Tour. And what they do with it is it allows them, when they have a shoot that's in some far-flung part of Europe, they can actually throw 4 cases together and build a camera car where they arrive. Just get a rental car with a good motor. They can use this Blacktek system to turn that into a camera car within about 40 minutes, which is fairly extraordinary. And it's very non-invasive in that you're only going to come off the tow hitch at the front of the car. That's going to give you your bracing to the car chassis. And then the suction mount is vacuum mounted so that it will actually give you continuous suction throughout. One of the advantages of that is that you have a little green light. So rather than when you've done your first run and you've come back and you're checking to go again for the second time, you don't have the grip team having to go around and press all those little suckers a million times. You actually just have that green light, which the driver can see the entire time. So Blacktek is very exciting, lots of new things, but it's a product where we really want to work with people so that you learn what the system is, and then we go further down the road. And there's one little addition with that one, which is my other company, Cinepower, have come up with a system called Grip Bits, which is will work with the Blacktek stuff. They're sending it to me in about a week or two, but their Grip Bits suction system is vacuum rig as well, and will probably, it's so strong it'll probably pull the door off something. So if you wanted to combine the two systems, you can do that with it, and that's what they've come up there with this, like, it's called the Bigfoot, and basically you stick it on, you can stand on it or something like that. So it's a fairly extraordinary addition to it. That's pretty much all my new toys. I think the big difference is I just do sales. I don't do any rentals whatsoever. So it's for people who want to invest in the equipment, buy the equipment, as opposed to renting the equipment. So I do sales. That's probably my point of difference.
Very cool. How involved are you, Chris, in any of the people who design the stuff?
Very, very involved.
Yeah.
I probably visit my manufacturers normally at least 2 times a year.
Yeah.
I do trade shows with them all around the world. We normally do 5 or 6 shows a year. So I'm seeing them every second month. I'm talking to them 3-4 times a day. A big part of my setting up the business was there's different cultures amongst different grips around the world. I started out in Australia in the late 80s, and the culture there was to own your dolly, because back then in the late 80s in Australia, we only got the stuff that you guys didn't want to use. And Panavision or whoever it was would go, fine, schlepp it off to the far end of the world. And the Australians would go, we're not using that. We'll buy our own thing and do that. So I came from that background of it was all column dollies. It was that were being used in Australia, and B, the Dolly Grip owned the dolly, so it was a big part of their income on the job was renting their dolly on the job as well. So that's a big cultural difference between the US and Europe, where they also a lot of them own their stuff. The other thing that is really good is that I bring in lots of the smaller European companies, and because they're quite small, they're very, very approachable to doing small custom projects or chatting with the customers. So my role is to try to help them grow their company in the US market, and yet still make them approachable for the customers as well. So I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous. Otherwise, I have, as you've seen, I have lots of people that I reach out to as well to get the proper technical information across to my customers.
Very good. Sean, you got anything?
I do actually. Spencer Whitney brought something up. Let me read this. I should have submitted this earlier, but I have a question. It's great to invent things like the Cinemoves motivator, but I work in a market where every nickel dime is questions. How can we innovate with budget constraints and where there's still desire to make cool shots happen? You know, I'm gonna just give my 2 cents real quick, and then anybody else that wants to get in there. I own a Movie Tech Felix crane, and you know, Moose Howery and I came up with Don Burgess where we did everything, you know, with fixed cranes on track. You know, this is techno cranes and movie birds used to be luxuries. Stabilized heads are still luxuries. Like here in Portland where I live, we have Brian Fletchoff from ProCam who's got a 30-footer and a 20-foot techno crane. There are no stabilized heads here, but we do have Ronins, you know, and a Ronin can work in a pinch. I like using the L40 on a fixed crane. I think a short arm or a jib or in a non-stabilized head when you're under budget constraints works really well, and put it on track and get somebody that you trust to push the chassis. And I mean, we've done it that way for a long time and it works really well, especially when you don't have the money to carry a techno crane and a Libra or a Scorpio or a Matrix or an M7 or, you know, or have a hydroscope. Those things work really well. You know, I live in a market where I do work here and we rarely have the money to have those tools. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And a jib or a small crane on track with a non-stabilized head works really well.
Yeah, we discovered an operator. We discovered if you underhang a vibration isolator on a non-stabilized head, it helps.
Does it?
It does.
Yeah.
I don't know if it should, but it does.
I've got a couple thoughts and answers on that, Sean.
Yeah.
First of all, one of the things I would recommend is educate yourself and make sure you know the advantages of the piece of equipment that is outside the budget. You know, way back when, you know, you used to see techno cranes only, you know, every so often. They were a luxury. They were, you know, for a particular shot. But if you remember, way back when music videos were popular, it seemed like every single music video had a techno crane on it. The reason was those young DPs learned that that was the only way they could shove 10 days of work in 2 days of time, because they put it on the end of that techno crane and they could cover a 30-foot radius within seconds. They weren't having to set up. And I can remember back in the day, we were taking 30-foot techno cranes inside, you know, nightclubs.
Yeah.
And the reason was it saved time.
Yeah.
So, you know, being educated and knowing that there's what we call smart money and helping productions not jump over quarters to pick up pennies, you know, that's really important. So that's one. The second answer I would have to that is what you already touched on, Sean. The Movies, the Ronins, this movement, that's the technology that's being, you know, developed on the budget. I mean, it's incredible, the capabilities. They're not the end all be all. They're not something that you're going to take on a job with you know, Martin Scorsese or somebody like that and depend on it to turn on every single time you need it. But for that budget, you know, your perfect example where Sean is up in Portland. The reason ProCam doesn't send a Libra up there is the market can't support it yet. So, you know, your budget is going to get a Ronin. But most importantly, know your equipment and know how it can save time.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I just got a call from a friend of mine who's going to Caribbean to do a movie that's almost all on a beach. And he was talking about cranes, and the DP wanted to carry a fixed crane. I said, dude, you need an off-road base and a hydroscope or a techno crane. You can do entire scenes from a fixed position having that. But if you try and drag a fixed crane out there, it's going to be an absolute nightmare.
You're spot on. So production's going to think, and this is where we as grips, Dolly Grips, Key Grips need to be able to communicate and help them understand that $50,000 it's going to cost you to get that base and that crane down there is going to save your ass. Because what's another few days because you didn't make your schedule, let alone having to make the compromise creativity-wise. Yeah. It's we see that every day, and I work really hard to try to help. You know,
I'm sure my Scotty Sean told you the story about the director we were working with. We could not convince this director that the Technocrane saved time. Could not. Every time that head went on that crane, it was just like, oh, this is gonna take. And I'm like, we can put this camera anywhere.
Yeah.
In seconds and do the whole. And we could not convince this director. But that goes to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you.
To that, we had the strangest use I ever had for a Technocrane was for a stills shoot. And the stills photographer, seriously, shooting internet stuff from Mercedes. And what he needed to do was a 360-degree move around the car. It was then going to be able to rotate on the internet. You click on any feature and it would zoom in. This is early days of internet, lower bandwidth. And he needed a 6-frame zoom into whatever feature. That's all he had. And he said if he did it with his stills tripod and moving the tripod from one position to the next, it would take him 10 days to shoot the whole thing. With the Super Techno, he did the entire shoot in 2 days. It was crazy because he just did 6 frame grabs as he ran in, 6 frame grabs running out. And we started thinking if he would go to maybe 24 or 25 frames a second, he could actually have sound with him too. But that's crazy talk. But it was just a brilliant idea. He used it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Well,
Donnie,
Spence.
I was going to say Donnie Steinberg and I were coming up with an idea to use Technocranes to paint houses with. You got the head, the thing, swinging around. We're serious. Anyway.
Spencer, if you want to call or email, if all the people are okay with it that have been a part of this today, I'm going to send it on email later and put everybody's contact information on. But Spencer, feel free to call me or email anybody. And if we all talk to each other, we all give each other advice and suggestions, and it's very helpful. Another question came up. The wheels simulator, I think, is a great idea. Wheels training is important. Is that something that's you can rent somewhere, or how's that working?
I only sell it. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I only sell it, but you could contact Scott to see if it's a rental item or different things like that. You can buy it and then rent it, but I tend to sort of push it out there as a buy it yourself sort of thing. It's about the cost of a good laptop.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we have it available to borrow and play with.
Okay. All right, excellent.
Cool. I think we got to everybody.
I think we did. So I'm going to send an email out later that has Scott Howell, Mike Howell, and John Slade's email addresses on it. If you're okay with that, I appreciate all 3 of you being here today and talking to us. Also going to put Shafi and Jim Razzo and Frank's emails in there as well. For anybody, again, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate Shafi. He's been my go-to guy for years, and he's like the guy behind the scenes that we all know and love. And thank you, Frank and Wick. I'm going to put your emails on there as well. I just got to know Wick, and I really appreciate all the information. And thank you, Chris. I am definitely going to come over and do Blacktek training next time I'm in LA.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Real
go ahead.
was going to recommend all your young Dolly Grips, you go check out everybody's websites. I'm sure everybody's got great information on there. For us, there's a cool thing, and give my wife a big shout out for creating it. It's called the Tech Scout Cheat Sheet. So it's got all of the pertinent specs when you're out scouting for all the different cranes and heads and things like that. And I know that I believe Chapman's
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
Where's that?
That's huge.
go to our website. So
Okay.
if you go and you pull down for, telescopic cranes, you'll see right at the top, Tech Scout cheat sheet for cranes.
Also, the Cinemoves website.
Yeah, cinemoves.com.
Okay, cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Also, I want to mention we have a YouTube channel, Dolly Grip Q&A. Please, I don't know. We've only got 4 and 5 up there. I don't know if we were able to technically get the earlier ones on, but please watch them. They're on there, and subscribe if you want. And leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. It'll help.
And
Cool. You're doing fantastic.
Eric Fletcher wanted to say something as well.
Let's go, Eric. You're muted.
You there, Eric?
He's muted.
I unmuted him.
Eric, unmute yourself.
There we go.
All right.
What's that? You hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
Butch, you know me as the tech chairman of the SOC. Heard a lot of really great new stuff today. Just putting out the pitch. There is going to be a tech awards again this year, so submit that stuff and go for it. Because one of the other things is that gets directly sent out to all the members of the SOC. So all the operators, all the associates. Basically, it's a direct line feed. I know Scott can tell you about the process, and because he's very happy with it. But yeah, just there's a lot of really cool stuff I saw today, and a lot of it should be presented and in consideration. So thanks you guys for doing this. This is an amazing resource, and I'm glad you guys have a YouTube channel. And thanks again.
Thank you, Eric. It's good to see you again. Also, I just want to mention thank you everybody for coming. I see we have some of the best Dolly Grips in the world on here, and we will probably interview some of you at one time or another. We're not leaving any of you out. It's just getting to you, But thank you all for showing up, and operators and men and women and everybody who takes the time out of their day to show up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
We haven't talked
you,
about who we're
Sean.
doing next week. We haven't talked about who we're doing next week.
No, we haven't. We'll talk. We'll talk
Okay,
separately.
very good. I got to go take my son's little buddy home, so I'll see you guys later.
All right. See y'all.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave this open for a few minutes if anybody
Thanks,
wants to
everybody.
chat, but I'm out of here as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey, Chris, how much did you sell that thing for?
Which thing?
The wheel simulator.
I think it's about 2,400 US.
Okay. Because I know a bunch of people that probably want to buy it.
Okay.